Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Just quickly gonna check everything is all right. I think so. I'm gonna post the pinned comment just in case anyone has questions. You can just tag Blender Studio like always, and I'm gonna turn on the music. Yes, perfect. Okay. So, this is now the second part, the second live stream for shading the character Snow. I did do a little bit more in between streams. I mean, last stream there was a bunch of stuff happening, not a lot of shading, just kind of dipping our toes into it. I did this setup over here, this frame of nodes, which is really just combining the main skin tones via vertex painting. So I do have the extra shape keys over here, so I can quickly close the eyes and open the mouth. And if I switch to just normal solid shading via Workbench, and I have vertex shading enabled, I can flip through these. And we can maybe see... Oh, no we can't, because I'm using an experimental feature. Let me quickly turn that off. There we go. So these are the vertex colors that I painted. And these are supposed to be like really broad and really just mix together these colors over here, which I've tweaked a little bit more. Like, it's basically just adding the lip color, some highlights, highlight on the lips, some darker areas on the skin in general, the eyelids, and then also the fingernails. Not a lot of detail, very rough, but that's why I'm using vertex colors. And from here on out, I will continue. That's basically it for a recap. I also see some first questions already. Does the Rain Rig have options for FK hands? I couldn't find it. It'll be very helpful for creating animation cycles like walking and running with FK controllers. There should be FK and IK switches in the Rig UI. If you go to the sidebar, there should be a tab called Cloud Rig, and anything you need should be there. It's the Cloud Rig is actually pretty advanced. Maybe there's some newer features missing right now, but just in general, FK and IK switches should be available. Another question: how do you make costumes for characters in Blender? Well, that's a kind of a big question. I do have time lapses and tutorials for that on the Blender Cloud. You can check that out. But today I'm mainly going to go into shading. But in terms of sculpting, like I can give you one answer. In terms of sculpting, I like to either go for just polymodeling the thing in the first place, just in edit mode, and then some rough just moving stuff around and like adding a subdivision surface modifier and a solidify modifier on it, and just getting a general shape going. And then I can still sculpt on it. But you can also just go the clay sculpting route, make a bunch of blobs, remesh them, and just have a solid hunk of geometry. Kind of sculpt a piece like a shirt or pants out of it, and then you can still kind of mask off the surfaces that are actually the pants, extract that geometry, and then you have... it's a very quick answer, but I have more detail on that on my tutorials and time lapses. Another question popping up: how can an artist work at the Blender Studio? What do you recommend us what do you recommend to us for that journey, I guess? I think, I mean, we're generally, like, we're always looking for, like, some talent to join film productions, because mainly the people who are working at the Blender Studio are artists. We're working on movies, but skills that are also very welcome is being able to work on tutorials, for example, or making like content for our platform. But also, I think generally, it's already in the word. We're usually also looking for generalists. There's very few people here at the Blender Studio are very specialized. We're like wearing a lot of hats, and we can help out in basically any part of the film production. But right now, we're not really looking for anyone for the film production. We're full on wrapping up, working on wrapping up the production on Sprite Fright. Once something new comes along, there's always a bit of a hiring process. But let's see. Continuing with snow. So one of the things that I would like to do is I could already start doing that. So I have kind of like a general thing going here with very rough tones, but in the end it's not really just going to be about that. It's not just like solid colors. If anything, like I have rain here on the side, there's a bit of detail sprinkled on top, and I want to do a better job at that than I did with rain. With rain there was a lot of manual just texture painting on it, and also I think I could have done a better job at just generally adding a bit more definition and detail. Like the lips are really just a single color, and I'm not very satisfied with how that went. But that's why I would like to use these vertex groups. Like I have a vertex group called here color brighter, that once I have this influence here, which is basically a mask, I could, instead of just adding that color, like just mixing it in, I could pipe this actually in together with some more procedural textures. So this is basically the mask for, hold on. This is basically my mask for brighter skin. There we go. And I'm just gonna arrange all of these here at the bottom right now. And I will just also put these into a little node group over here. Screw it like that. And I will call this mixing base color. Actually just base color. There we go. So this is where I mix all of the base colors together. Later on I could also then just do the same for duplicating this with the same inputs and just mixing the roughness or some extra bump and stuff like that. Just making it fully node based. But first off, I want to focus on this little part over here. So I'm taking the lips, the vertex group of vertex color over here, inverting it and multiplying it on top of everything that is supposed to be brightened. So that's my main input already. I'm also gonna take these, actually plug them in here to have this be its own thing. I don't want to have too much mixing of I don't want to have these node connections going all over the place. That's just gonna end up really messy. But for the brighter skin, I would like to add a noise texture. Now I will need to experiment a bit on what kind of noise texture I want to use exactly. So for example, I could use a Voronoi. I'm going to turn up the scale. Whoa, hold on. What's going on over here? No. I think I'm just gonna go for something rather simple. Like really just a simple noise or something. Where is it? It's a noise texture. There we go. And I'm gonna use, actually as an input, a UV map. And it's just gonna be, like I'm not gonna define it here, it's just gonna be whatever UV map on any object has this camera icon enabled. That's basically the active one. It's going to be rendered, and this is automatically going to be used. With H, I can just collapse it. That's basically it. And now I have this noise texture. I'm going to turn the detail down to 0 for now, turn up the scale. I wish some of these would be a bit better documented. But yeah, now I can like add a bit more detail again, like that. Now, I can duplicate this mix node, or actually, let me just Control X that. I can Control Shift and right click these two nodes and just mix them like that. That was a bit buggy. Okay, I'm gonna add all of this together in here, move this around. And now we can see this is already being mixed in. But I would like to just multiply it. Or do I? I'm gonna try multiply, but that actually might end up darkening everything too much. Multiplying this noise texture on top of this. There we go. Like that. And now, if I show the bright spots, it's actually adding a bit more of a pattern to it. So that's kind of what I want. But not as strong. Like just adding a bit of a random pattern like that. I'll just go with that for now. And this is not going to be that noticeable, I think, in the base color right now, but overall later on, if I also plug this into the roughness, it's going to be noticeable. This is not super realistic, but I want to have it as a bit of a simpler setup. I think this should be fine. I'm actually gonna try something. What if I use an invert to invert this? This is sort of like a factor for how much this gets multiplied. Actually, let me put a... Where is it? Vector and then... No, converter. It's a map range node. So what I would like to do is just flip this. And now I have a bit more control. I don't want it to be multiplied that much on the brighter spots, but a bit more on the darker ones, like that. Oh, yeah, kind of like that. That's basically it. I think I'm missing some questions already. No, there's actually one new one. How can an artist work? Oh no, that's actually nothing new there. Okay. I'm gonna actually turn on diffuse color over here. Well, I think it's actually, I can also just Control-Shift-Click the output over here. And then I can see a bit more clearly what I'm doing here. Yes. Like that. Okay, moving on to the next one. It's gonna be this. I think later on I might just add a bit. I wonder. Wait, I want to check out the UV map for this again. So if I just... I'm gonna make a texture over here. Just a normal image texture. And maybe I still have the grid. Yeah, color grid 2K. Like that. I'm gonna frame this as... I forgot how to frame. P? No. N? Wow. I forgot how to frame something. Is it Control J? That's not the way of the node wrangler. Hold on, node wrangler. Frame selected. It's Shift P. There we go. Why does Blender only support 8 vertex colors max? I see someone ask. That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. I really can't tell. But yeah, let's see. I'm actually gonna make a new UV map. I want to try something. This is gonna be a bit experimental, like how I approach the shading of snow. Less of a tutorial, but just you get to see me fiddling with features and going back and forth, maybe on ideas. But I'm getting really inspired by just more procedural workflows, and I would like to try some of that. So I want to have a bit more detail on the lips, but I don't want to paint that manually because that's going to be a bit finicky, and I want to have a lot of like whenever I painted bump maps for the lips, I found that it's not looking that good. There's multiple reasons for that, but if you go procedurally, you have a lot of control on changing how the texture looks, and it's a very non-destructive workflow, so I would like to try some of that a bit more. So I'm gonna add input UV map over here, and I'm just gonna go for lips. Now I'm gonna go back to the UV editing space over here. Oh, and also just gonna go back to a frame where I don't have the shape keys enabled. Now, these are basically my UVs over here, but I want to, essentially what I want to do is I want to seam this. Let's Alt P all of these points. I think, yeah, I'm gonna turn on Live Unwrap. Now this is seamed, and I'm gonna mark seam. Perfect. I'm gonna move on the inside, and oh, perfect. It's already completely marked. I'm gonna clear the seam over here. I'm gonna mark this as seam as well. And these are still all the same. Good. Now I want to have this completely separated. So I'm gonna select everything else, scale it down. Basically, let's just scale it down to 0 and move it to set the 2D cursor over here to the 0 point, and then snap all of this to the cursor. There we go. Now that I have this all separated, I can do some interesting things with it. So I can first off mark seams over here. Oh, also all of these points, I want to pin them. Now they're gonna not change if I do any changes. Mark seam. It's just gonna live unwrap it. Perfect. is going on over here? Do I actually have a split point over here? No. I want to merge these 2 points like that. Gonna select all of this, rotate it. Now, even though these are the shading time-lapse, shading live streams, I'm gonna go back into UVs quite often, maybe. So I want these to be aligned. That's basically my goal. So let's just sync selection for a moment. I want to see. So this is the outer loop. Okay, perfect. Just so I know. So this one should be rotated 180 degrees. Ah. There we go. Oh. That's better. Now, I'm gonna have the selection unsynced again. I'm gonna pin these. Also, I'm gonna turn off the display stretch overlay. Okay. Now, with Shift W, I can align these like that. I'm also gonna merge these points again. I don't know why they are separated actually. Is there... Ah, yes. There's actually a seam. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that. Now I'm gonna pin these. Okay. I'm gonna actually rotate this. One thing I found out is that the align operator in UV in the UV editor is actually just scaling what you have selected. It's a bit disappointing. There we go. This is looking better. Yes, this is what I want. I want these to be actually aligned with the direction of the lips. Also, I'm gonna... if anyone has... I'm gonna get to your questions in a moment. If anyone knows some good reasons not to use, for UV smoothing in the subdivision surface modifier, not to use keep corners, please let me know. I'm very curious. The default is keep boundaries, but it's often causing some stretching. And I found that keep corners actually causes the least amount of weird stretching along seams. Maybe there are some good reasons not to use it, but I am not sure about that. Okay, let's actually use texture here in the viewport. Okay, that's looking good, I think. There we go. Yes, so this is all already going to be much better aligned. I don't think there's any other spot where I would need aligned UVs for the body. If yes, then I would include them. I think this is all good. So let's just go back to shading. And I'm gonna show this again. Also, I'm gonna come back to your questions for a moment. So there's some questions in the chat. How do I switch to Blender game engine? Well, that's no longer really possible. The game engine got removed in Blender 2.8. Julian, I just want you to know this beep boop song gets stuck in my head all day when I watch your streams. Oh my god, that's amazing. Yeah, I actually ended up removing a couple of the songs from the playlist just because they were actually a bit distracting. But generally, I really like the playlist. I like the artist a lot. If anyone is curious on what music I'm playing in the background, it's in the description. Would you ever consider going on the Blender Nest podcast hosted by Curtis Holt, CG Matter, Ducky3D, etc. I think you'd be a great addition. I am not familiar with that. Blender Nest podcast. I need to check that out. Man, that just reminds me of when we had our own podcast in the Blender studio. That's a while ago. It's been discontinued for a while, but that was fun. I was in like 3 of them. Okay, let's continue. Now, I want to add detail to the lips. I also still have some references over here. And okay, so I think I can just do I add any darkening to the lips? I'm not sure. No. So I can just make a, well, this is just gonna be a new frame for lip color. Well, lip brightness. Perfect. Just move this over here. Now, I'm just gonna select this entire thing and duplicate it. Ah, come on. I want to select all of this. Okay, also the frame. And I want to call this lip detail. Now there's the lip brighter. I'm gonna call this lip, I'm gonna call for lip color darker. There we go. And okay, so this gets multiplied on top of that, and then I have where it's supposed to be darker. That's basically all I need for now. But I need a procedural texture for the lip detail. So I'm not exactly sure what texture would be best. It's really just about having like these little streaks and like just kind of subtle. Noise might not be the right choice. I'm gonna try Voronoi actually. And I'm gonna choose as an input the right UV map lips. Plug that in. There we go. And hold on. Let's actually press Control T on this one. I want the right UV map in here, but now I could have just added a mapping node, like nothing. Okay, that's basically it. Now I can change the scaling along the Y, kind of like that. I'm gonna experiment a bit. I haven't done a lot with that looks kind of interesting. I haven't done a lot with procedural textures, so this is an interesting exercise for me. Okay, now this is kind of looking good, even though a bit uniform. But essentially what I can now do, if I go over here into vertex paint mode and go to the vertex color darker, and I'll just select this part over here. Oh, by the way, I should turn live UV unwrap off again. I don't want to forget doing that, because it can be quite destructive. There we go. I want to select all of this, because now if I go into vertex paint and enable vertex masking, I can just flood fill this just to 1. It's fine for now. Also, I'm gonna select to go to a different frame where I have the shape keys animated. So I have an open mouth. It's really helpful. Now, back to... Oh, by the way, I just have the original sculpts, the original sculpt of snow, and also the final post model of rain in the background, which is kind of nice reference, but I can also just turn them off for now. I don't need them. Okay, now I can multiply this on top. It's basically what I want. Okay, like that. Okay, so I got the lip detail, but I want to add a bit of randomization to this. It's not just about these tiny streaks. It needs a bit more. Whoa. That's interesting. Distance edge to edge. Might just go for the smooth method, but let's see. So, for one, might be good to again use the... Where is it? I always forget the names or where they are. It's the map range. This is still a vector, so I still have a bit of control over it. This might not be exactly what I want. No, it's not really. Well, I'm gonna quickly get rid of that. But what I want is to add a bit more randomness to the vector. So I can add a... Is it a mix RGB? Okay. I see some questions popping up. Do you have to use UV mapping for procedural textures because generated coordinates moves around when the character is animated? It's kinda yes, what's happening, but they don't always move. Like swimming textures is a problem if you have a lot of like if you use coordinates based on the object. Generated coordinates, I think, actually don't move necessarily. Like they don't swim around. But I like UVs because you have a lot of control over the direction. Another question, after finishing shading, are you going to bake the materials to image textures or leave them to be procedural? I like baking it down, but since it kind of depends. I think I'm gonna bake it down in the end, just because then it's also easier to just export the model to other engines or do whatever with it. If it's not baked down and it's just very procedural with the nodes of Blender, then it's kind of stuck to Blender. So would be nice if I bake it down in the end. It shouldn't be too difficult. Another question, how can I learn about texture nodes more in detail? There's well, if you want to go really into detail, there's a tutorial course on the Blender Cloud by Simon Thomas. It's, wait, I can actually go to Firefox. There we go. It's right here, actually. It's, you go to training, and there is the procedural shading fundamentals and beyond. It's really, it's going a lot into detail, sometimes a bit fast, but I can really recommend this. For procedural shading, this is insane. And then there's another question, are you going to bake this into textures at the end? Yes, I already answered that. Okay, so I will add a noise texture over here. And I want to mix these two. So hopefully, I guess, Blender is just picking the right node. Mix RGB. There we go. So I can mix this in. What if I do multiply? Okay, let's see actually. This is not very, okay, I want the detail and everything to be really low. Roughness, I guess, doesn't do anything if the detail is on 0. Okay, like that. And again, I'm gonna use the normal UV map for this. There we go. Yes, you can see how it gets distorted. That's a bit what I want. I just want the detail to be much higher. I need to find out at some point what's the better method, to put the detail up or to just use a mapping node to repeat some of those patterns. I think I need to put the detail down again, kind of like that. Okay, now I'm actually gonna just put this into, where is it, well, this is a color at this point, so I can just use a RGB curves. I think this makes it visually more obvious what I'm doing, where I'm just kind of flipping this around. Hold on. Oh, I should actually multiply this at the end. I'm gonna cut this. Put this right here at the end. And then multiply this. Why does it get sent off so far away? Right at the end it should get multiplied, because then I can actually flip this. There we go. And now I can define some of this a bit more. I'm actually not quite sure what I'm doing here. I'm gonna put this here. Like, this is something, actually a nice little tip that I learned, that if you want to connect this node somewhere else, you can hold Alt, click and drag it, which disconnects it. And then if you hover it over here and let it go, it actually gets connected somewhere else. So that's really useful. Hold on. Gonna experiment with this a bit. Wherever it's white, I want it to be like really dark. Get a hang of this. Yes, it's getting better. But now, I mean, I vertex painted this, like just complete white everywhere. So right now it's just gonna add all of this on top everywhere, just complete white. But if I now vertex paint the over here, some of it away, I can define a bit more where it's gonna get this pattern. And I can still adjust the pattern. That's very much what I'm intending to do, but I want to get this kind of in here procedurally. Okay, I'm just gonna do this for now. And just, of course, now I will need to plug this in. So I kind of made a spot here. I would like to put this into the factor, get rid of this thing. There we go. Okay, now it's gonna mix this color in. So if I turn this really dark, you can see it popping in. Whoa. What is this doing? Darker. Oh, right. It's just making everything darker. So I actually need to get this one. The lips. Okay. Invert. Invert the lips, plug them in over here, multiply to 1. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm gonna check on that in a moment again. Seems to be fine for now, but let's see. There's supposed to be some detail over here. Yes. I'm actually gonna name these nodes. So this is the label and it's called lips. This is gonna be skin bright. This is gonna be lips bright. I'm just gonna make this very organized as much as I can. This one actually supposed to do? It's oh, it's skin dark. This is lips dark. This is eyelashes, nails, and nails bright. Now. Perfect. Can even align these if I wanted to. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go into vertex painting. Set to white, dark. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Let me actually change this a bit. I'm gonna use wait, what is it? A math node. Because I don't want, like, you can see there's a white socket over here, so it's a vector. And the moment it turns into it gets into one of these yellow socket, it turns into a color. That means a lot of information can be lost, and I want to keep as much of this alive as I can, going towards this. Because I want to use this as I want to also use this as something for bump maps. And if I keep a lot of values alive, it's gonna help me a lot in the long run. There we go. Okay, now I can actually use the, where is it? The map range. Yeah, really get this bright. There we go. Also, one thing that I generally do when I'm shading, I go in here and in color management I turn filmic off and set it to standard because I need to see the actual values over here. It's not okay if I see color corrected values. Whatever is a value of 1, I want that to be white. Whatever is a value of 0, it should be black. It's gonna help me a lot. Okay, now this is really looking extreme, and I can go in here. Hold on. Tweak this a bit. And then I, of course, also want to tweak the color. And I want to tweak the... Well, this is the wrong color. Something more like this. But I also want to, now that this is a color going in here, into the color values, I want to add some RGB curves over here. Like that. Hold on. Actually want to move all of this down, this up. Okay. I want this to be not as strong. Really tone it down a bit. I think this is kind of working. And then if I want to fine tweak it further where it actually gets darker, I can just paint that in over here with vertex colors. Oh, it's actually blurring. Oh, that explains it. Okay. And of course, I don't want it to be that strong. I think this should be kind of a subtle effect. I just want these details to be here. At least to some extent. In this case, I can also turn off X symmetry. Probably this is gonna eventually end up more noticeable in the bump map That's my intention for the bump and the roughness. That should just like really give some of that, make some of that extra definition shine. So I might still adjust this more later on. I'm gonna keep it like this for now. I'm gonna also change some of these colors. So this is like, I don't know, lips detail. So I'm gonna make it like kind of the color of the lips. This is brightened skin, so it's kind of like brighter orange. Lip brightness, so it's like this kind of more pink. I don't know. And then this, what was this? This is darker lips. Like I like to color code some of these things a bit more. Okay, so that's at least something already. Are there any more questions? Do you have any more any favorite tutorials on the cloud? I mean, there's a bunch of good stuff. I think my favorites in general are probably the newer ones, and I think what Simon did is insane. But in general, hold on. I'm not sure. Courses are generally more comprehensive, but I also really like the workshops. Like for example, the anglerfish over here shows a really nice work example of Andy. Even the older stuff is still insightful. But I can only really recommend that to people who already know a bit more about Blender and can even understand when watching older videos on some of the features that are basically the same thing and can get past that roadblock, like just interpreting the tutorials and tolerating that it's like showing an older version. It's, sometimes it can be a bit tricky. But Grease Pencil Fundamentals shows stuff really well. I like these little bits of like Matt showing like how to weight paint properly, which even I didn't really know. There's just a lot of really cool insight here. The best thing we could also just do is update some of them a bit more. Another question, does texturing always come before rigging, or sometimes we can switch around? Well, yes, we are, for example, developing a pipeline tool that lets you work on texturing UVs and like maybe hair simulation, and then also rigging at the same time. And just as long as the geometry mostly stays the same, either in shape or in vertex count, you can do that. Like you can transfer certain UV maps and like vertex groups and all of that stuff around and work side by side with some good organization. But generally it's good to do the texturing and shading before rigging. But right now, for example, for Sprite Fight, some of the characters are already being rigged or are rigged, and they're now being textured and shaded afterwards. So that is also possible, and it does happen sometimes, even though it's not the ideal workflow. Another question, after unwrapping, if I choose to export a mesh, does the unwrapped data also get exported in the FBX? Yes. UV maps generally get exported as well. Another one, why do you use Blender for texturing and not something like Substance? Well, the main reason is because I am working here at the Blender studio, and one of the main things that we're doing is only using open source software. So any software that is proprietary and closed source, we're not going to use it. Kind of like to also make a point of just that you can make a high quality short film basically with free software. But yeah, I wish I could use some of Substance. I would love to get more comfortable with it. But some of the workflows that I'm doing are also inspired by in some way to Substance, making a sort of procedural workflow, or like at least very non-destructive, mainly painting masks and plugging them into various parts of the node network. In a way, the way how you use it in Blender with nodes can be more free, but it can also be a bit more convoluted and slow. I like the layer-based system in Substance, but yeah, that's not something I can use here. But yeah, I'll just continue basically. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna Control-Shift-Click on this again. And I think this is already kind of a good base to work from. I think with the skin detail, I would like this to be a bit more visible. Let's see. Like that. And the good thing is it's adding it everywhere. Hold on. Oops. Okay, I actually merged some of this stuff a bit here. So this is supposed to be darker skin. And for that, I need to quickly check over here. Oh, okay. That's good to know. This is only meant to be used down here for the darker skin, so it's already doing the right thing. One of the things I would like to add here is also just this sort of a setup with the noise texture. So I have the darker skin over here. I think I can showcase this, maybe see it in the best way over here on the hands. Let's see. I think I'm going to use a larger scale for this. I'm going to full screen this for a moment and plug in the factor over here. One of the things that might make sense now is to just go into vertex painting a bit and blur some of these a bit more. You can actually notice the lower resolution, which is a bit unfortunate. Why is that? Might actually make sense to, at some point soon, actually replace some of these with painted textures instead of vertex groups. Yeah, might make sense. Oh, and damn it. Of course, I didn't have X symmetry enabled. It's not very great that it's just out of view over here. I think that's the main reason why I'm maybe gonna flip this over here, so that the image editor over here is down here, and then this, like, I can just see immediately when X symmetry is disabled. Are there any more questions? How was your 3D learning journey? How can I learn 3D to be a master 3D generalist like you? Thank you. Well, hold on. Well, one of the I think there's a lot of skills that you just pick up along the way, as long as you keep going at it and are curious and learn more things. I think one of the things that helped me is to get some work experience early, either through collaborating with other artists online or with my apprenticeship in an actual an actual animation studio. But you can just work on your own projects and get experience that way. I just always hope that people don't get too demotivated, or like not demotivated, but like turned off by the complexity of the software, because there's so much that you can learn. It's very easy to get turned off. And I hope that doesn't happen too much. That would be really sad. But yeah, it's really just gonna come over time. You pick up more and more little skills. And even if you, for now, I don't know, there's like nuance to that question that I'm not sure about how to exactly answer. Because you could go two routes of just like specializing more, like you find the niche that you really enjoy in 3D and then do that more and more and get better at it, which can be very encouraging. But it's also really good to like dip your toes in all aspects of Blender or like 3D software in general. Just try to learn as much as possible. Okay. But you can see now how this sort of like procedural workflow kind of applies here. By not just adding color, but adding textures via masks. Just spreading them around. Like that. And I can still tweak the exact procedural texture that is being scattered around. I think that's still something I want to do. Okay. I've been also neglecting some other questions. Will you show how to do facial tests? Not in these live streams, no. Hey Julian, I noticed that the Blender Studio recently uploaded all the production logs. Thank you for sharing. I was wondering though, is there a reason why now and not after the movie is released? Well, if anything, we should have shared them sooner. Not when the movie is released, but really just showing exactly what we're doing very regularly on like anything in the movie production. Also sharing files, just anything. This is these are not just for no reason called open movies. We are trying to be as open with the movie production as possible, so anyone can follow along. And supporting us on the Blender Cloud, I mean, it's kind of like a Patreon support. Like we're crowdfunding our animation studio and the work that we do. And of course, it's not just about the animation, but also about testing Blender, which is great. Another question: what's the proper way of projecting high HP to low, so high poly to low poly? Do we need to make a copy of the low poly, subserve, and shrink wrap the high poly to the low poly? Copy and then use the shape option to multi-res of the low poly original. I'm not exactly sure if I understand the question correctly, but this is more of a sculpting question. Or is it about... It's not about tech, it's not about baking anything, it is really just projecting, I guess, yeah, subdivision detail. So do we need to make a copy of the low poly, subserve, shrink wrap? Well, what's the proper way of projecting high poly to low poly? Well, I mean, you can just add a shrink wrap, like a multi-res modifier to the low poly, subdivide it a bunch, add a shrink wrap below that, or like, I mean, in like reading order below, and then apply the shrink wrap if it looks good, and that should basically be it. It all just depends on what you want to do with it. Okay, let me just get rain over here, just so I have a bit of reference on that as well. Hold on. I might just leave it at this for now, even though I'm not fully happy with it. I think the darker skin could also be a bit darker, like the darkened parts. Then I also want to go into vertex painting over here, actually blur that, like that. There's a bit of weirdness going on over here. Oh, that's actually the noise texture, which is too high. The scale was too. It was not really correct. Yeah, I'm pretty much gonna leave it at this for now. I can still fine tweak it more afterwards. And I would really like to skip ahead a bit and actually get into the shirt, for example, like some of the clothing. I want to do the same treatment there, adding some basic textures and finishing some of the UVs. Just to get like, not go too into detail and wrapping up the skin shader, but just kind of staying at a consistent level of progression all over the place. So let's just go into the shirt. But first, I'm gonna go over two more questions over here in the chat. How many outfits is he going to have? For now, only one. And another one, will you make a 20 to 30 minute video on how did you work on the snow model when you're finished? Maybe. I think that could be really interesting, having a recap video on snow once I'm done, because some things went really good here, some things not so much. Also, I wanted to mention what there was a bit of a different approach to this character than I did with Rain, especially in retopology. So I want to show that as well. So a recap video could actually be really nice. With the... I know that I'm not gonna make a fully procedural workflow for the clothing, but I do want to have some kind of detailed patterns. And for that, I mean, I can just like go into my reference board. So for the shirt, I want to have like sort of like a cotton pattern. And I want to add like a couple more stitching details like along the sleeves over here and also along the collar. And pretty much the same thing maybe here at the bottom, but I will have to see how that matches up with the folds that I already modeled in. That might actually be kind of tricky, but I could do it. Then there's going to be the shoes, which basically use mostly the same setup as the materials on Rain, but I want to fine-tune it a bit more. And the kind of jeans, which are supposed to be this kind of dark gray, but they are a bit of with a hint of blue, but I wanted to have them less saturated than Rain's, and they're gonna have this denim pattern over here with extra stitches. Still fairly simple. I don't want to make it too detailed, but I have a few things in mind, because if I look at the texture detail on Rain, it's also a lot of this, like these repeating patterns, but there are no stitches. I never added them. And overall, it's really just this pattern repeated all over the place. And I think it's looking kind of boring. I want to have some of these smaller details that are just like making it feel a bit more real, but without adding too much noise, too much detail. So basically, before going into that, I want to quickly go to to the browser over here. And because this is very much a Creative Commons workflow, and it's what we're going to publish, it needs to be Creative Commons, I need to use Creative Commons textures. And for that, I have a couple of resources that I usually use for textures and HDRIs. I can really recommend Polyhaven. And in here, I already found two materials, two textures that might actually work really well. Like this one, the Denim Fabric 02, and this one for these sorts of details over here on the side and these stitches. Just for the general bump and like the bigger patterns, this might actually be really good, but I might need to adjust it a bit because there's a lot of detail in here, and that might not mix very well with this one. Apart from that, there's cgbookcase.com, which I found at some point, and they also have like an extensive library for textures, especially for environmental design. And they actually, if you download the materials, they come with a Blender file or an Unreal Engine file, depending on which one you download, where everything is already assembled into a material. That's really useful. And then there's Ambient CG, which also has a bunch of Creative Commons textures. So whatever you download from these, you don't have to credit them. They actually CC0, so they basically they're giving up all of their copyright to these textures. So that's fascinating. It's really it's amazing that this exists. And yeah, I'm gonna use some of these. So I already downloaded these over here for the jeans. I'm also gonna try this one, which might just be a better fit because it's more subtle. And then there's this one, which I would like to use for the shirt, which is like kind of a simple cotton fabric pattern. And I want the shirt to feel soft. So this one might just be the right one. But now after the fact, I'm actually kind of sad that I never, that I gave Snow a t-shirt instead of like a v-neck pullover or something. Like at least, I mean long sleeves instead of just a t-shirt basically. Would have been nice. But yeah, I'm going to use these textures. So let me get back to it. But there's also there's one new question in the chat. Why did you model in the folds instead of sculpting them in multi-res? Sculpting them in multi-res might be a solution, but in the end, I wanted this character to be optimized and to have everything that is necessary, like all the main elements, also like big folds. I want it to be visible without subdivisions. So if I, on the pants, just set the subdivision modifier off, the folds are still there, the silhouette is still intact. Everything that you need to be aware of, it's all there. But also it works if you're subdividing it. With the multi-res, I can add a lot of detail, and you can even use it in animation, but it might just be better to have it baked down as displacement maps. And I wanted this to be in the geometry. Since it's already so stylized and simple, I can just do that. These folds are not really gonna change. And with displacement maps, you need to subdivide it. You need to get that detail in there by subdivision. And smaller details I might just still paint in as displacement maps. But the bigger folds, I just wanted to have them in there. Another question, what is the resolution of the textures? Well, that's gonna be interesting now, because so far I have not used any resolution. It's procedural textures, textures over here from Blender, and vertex painting. But now I'm gonna use procedural maps, and I would say with that you can go as high res as you want. In the end, I'm gonna bake it down. So I don't really care about the resolution, to be honest. As long as it works. Okay, so now I'm gonna, one of the things that I could actually do is I could go to the folder structure over here on snow, go to maps, this is where I actually have some of these textures, and I could go to, which one is it? Genes. Okay, and I can just drag and drop these in. So now I have this texture. And I can just Control-Shift-Click on it, and it's going to appear over here. And now I can hit Control-T on it, and then I actually get some more options over here, and I can just increase the scale to just get more detail out of this. But I do notice right now I'm using the wrong texture. This is not the jeans. I want this one, the fabric. I'm gonna quickly look at them. This is opacity, roughness, normal, color. There we go. These are 8K, so I just went for like a very high detailed texture. But it's gonna be fine. It's one texture that I'm not going to paint on, nothing. It just needs to be loaded in, and then it can be used. Okay, so this is giving me a lot of detail. I think some of this, like Simon would just procedurally generate this. There's no reason for him to just like use texture like this, but I can't do that yet. It's a skill that's missing a bit for me. But let's see, I can add a hue saturation value node, and I'm gonna set the saturation to 0. And I'm gonna turn the value down a bit, and then I'm gonna plug this into the base color. There we go. Something like this. So there's a bit of that pattern over here. And luckily, what I did is I unwrapped this in a way that I can just throw a texture on this, and it's just going to work. So if I just copy this over and show it with the 2K grid map, you can see that the grid is following the shapes of this clothing piece pretty nice. And wherever I have seams, I also have, oh wow, I also have seams in the geometry. So they match up, which is gonna be great because now if I show the texture pattern, it's actually stopping right there, wherever the seams are. And then I can also use these seams ideally for some other texturing methods. but let's see. One of the things that I'm noticing right now is it's actually not angled the right way. So if I look at these, ideally they should be, it should be rotated. This is not really angled correctly. I would like to have it like this. Okay, so I'm gonna rotate this 90 degrees, and I'm gonna rotate this 90 degrees. That's actually, I still want to have this symmetrical. So I wish there would be more symmetry tools, but I just have to do this manually. So let's just mirror this over. I hope live UV unwrap is disabled. Yes, it is. And now I can just move this around, move these two around like that. Yes. It's looking better. And now I can just select all of this, which now lets me select this again, and I can mirror it over. Perfect. So now this is all looking good. Let's get back to shading. So that's one way of just putting a pattern really fast and easily on a clothing piece. And that's essentially like where most of this is coming from with Rain, which is a bit sad. It's not going that much in depth. Just adding a bit of color variation, but it's mostly that in terms of the pattern. But I hope that I can add a bit more over here. Okay, so this is cotton pattern. And then of course I want to get the other textures in here. So I need the displacement and the roughness. Perfect. I'm gonna add these in here as well. And these should use the exact same vector. So if I switch between these, this is gonna stay exactly the same. So I'm gonna look at this and then the roughness. Let's check that out. Now it's actually loading it into memory. Let's see. 8K is a bit, it's a lot, but for now this is nice. And then displacement. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna already try to use this. So just get a vector and a bump node. Now the color, I'm gonna put that in the height, and the normal, I'm gonna put that here in normal. Now here's a thing that I noticed is I've been using bump maps wrong my entire life in Blender. I tend to just turn the strength down, but that's not resolving the issue of this being like a really strong stepping effect. You actually need to put the distance down as well, and ideally really low. I always thought that the distance is not really doing anything, but if you set it to like 0.001, that means that the bump map is actually behaving much more like it should be. So I could like have this at 0.2. And now it's actually looking right. I've always just turned the strength down and wondered why bump maps always look so terrible. So if we turn this to 0.1, get the bump map effect. Yeah, just a slight bump mapping, which is making it just feel a little bit more alive. like that. Okay, and then of course we can plug this into the roughness. There we go. And I'm actually not sure if I want to use this for the roughness. It's adding like some of this dirt map basically on top of everything. And I don't really like that. So what I could do, let's see. Yeah, one of the great advantages if you're just building your own textures procedurally, which you could do, like you could just create this pattern, like all of these little noise patterns, like these dark spots and bright spots, you could just have them all separate and still tweak them. This is all baked in. I can't change anything about this. So let's see. Let me just get like RGB. Just maybe plug this into the roughness, see how it looks. And then what I generally like to do is just to add like a bunch of little connections over here, so I can just unplug the base color and see how it looks. Turn that to black, and then I can just see the exact, like I can see the bump more clearly, I can see the reflections more clearly. I can also just remove the normal over here, and then I can just see how does the roughness look like. Okay, it's looking nice. Gonna make this a bit more diffuse. I'll turn it all the way to white over here. So the higher this gets, the more rough it becomes. The lower it is, the lower. And I just have to imagine these are the dark points, these are the bright points over here. This is kind of working. Okay, I can plug the normal back in. Okay. I'm gonna turn the normal back down a bit more. Oh, damn it. I hope the stream is still alive. I think it's getting a bit spotty right now. I'm getting like warning messages. I see some more questions. How did your PC not die on 8K maps, bro? Maybe it's not the best. Was not the best idea to use an 8K map for this. I can still go lower if I wanted to. Like I can select this, go to properties. Right now it's over here 8K. And some of these are actually like half floats, so this is kind of insane. But I could also just get to the textures over here. And I could change it. I think image and then resize. And then I can change it to a different solution like half. So I can just divide by 2. Okay. And then it's resizing the texture. And now it's 4K. And to be honest, 4K is fine. So I'm just gonna save the texture. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the other maps, to be honest. So I'm just gonna go to the displacement, image, resize, these two divided by 2, and save. And same thing for the other one. So I can start high res and still go lower. Divided by 2, okay. And save. Okay. Another question is, why don't you lower the resolution in the viewport? Which I can do. I could, yeah. Which I just actually don't quite remember where the setting was right now. It's like over here in, not performance, it's like a way of clipping the max size of textures. I think it's simplify. No, it's gonna come back to me. Don't you have to change the color space to non-color? I see someone ask. Not necessarily. It's very much necessary for normal maps, but for these, for the displacement map, I could change it to linear. And possibly that's gonna give some more correct results. Let's see. Is non-color and linear giving me the same results? I'm not sure. Yes. And sRGB is different. If I set it to linear, it might be more correct. I think it's more correct. Yeah, it looks better. A bit more subtle. Yes, I like it. Anyway, I should plug back the base color in. I see some more questions. In the preferences, I see someone say. So if I go to preferences, like system, memory cache limit, it's not here in the sequencer. It should be in system. It kind of shows that. I guess it's here in the interface of viewport. Viewport. Wow. It shows that I'm not toggling the setting a lot. I think it's fine for now. Like the system can handle it. Okay, so I'm gonna turn the value a bit up like that. It's looking good. Got the fabric pattern over here. Now I'm gonna add some vertex colors. So one of them is called seams. And this is really just to grab any of these points, on any of these edges which are actually a seam. And I want to darken them. There we go. Like that. Okay. So this is the baseline, pretty much. Oops, didn't want to completely delete that. Now I can add more to this. So for example, I can go to input, vertex colors, seams. I can just merge these. Oh, it's actually getting confused with the UVs. Oh my god. I need to start calling these call seams. There we go. I'm gonna use this as a factor. actually multiply a color in here. Just to darken these seams over here a bit. Like that. I'm gonna do more to this, not just darken it. But that's one of the things I want to add. Now, there's actually something missing that I need to add in terms of the UVs. Let's see. I can go over here to the seams UV map. And yeah, I already started with this, but I didn't finish it. So I want to have like some straight UV maps that I can use to project seams onto like actual stitches onto the geometry, but I can also use it to give the ends, like the collars, like the collar and the sleeves and so on, some like some darker spots. Like over here, it's like defined by this like these seams over here, but I also want to darken the collar over here a bit, and this part over here, like these. I want to have this a bit darker. It's just gonna make it a bit more interesting. And I'm gonna basically use the same thing for the pants later on as well. Okay. So let's just, I don't need any of these to be symmetrical. I just need it to be correct. So I'll just move this down for now, like that. Okay, but I'll try to keep it symmetrical, at least that. So let's just select all of this and rotate this along here, like 27 degrees. Then I'm gonna select all of this and rotate this minus 27 degrees. I can just type in those values. Now I will put my cursor over here. I'll select all of this and rotate this minus 50 degrees. I think it's this one. And 50. Same thing over here. Selecting this. Oh. Rotating it minus 65. I'm gonna get to the point, like why I'm doing this in a moment. And 65. There we go. Because this is a mess right now. But I want to use live unwrap again. Call these UV map.seams. I also see some more questions, like, someone answered the, like, limit texture size. Is this going to be a short film, or will you create a background for this too? Well, it is not going to be a short film, maybe. I mean, Rain in the end was used for a short film, Coffee Run. But right now, this is just meant to be a free character. Another question, what is the difference between linear and non-color? I'm actually not sure. I think they're pretty much the same, but maybe there's like a small difference there that that is important. Hey Falk, nice of you to join us. You're asking, is his left shoulder clipping through the shirt? Yes, it is, and I will need to fix that at some point. Another question, any suggestion where I can learn geo nodes, because YouTube tutorials are not so good? I'm not sure, to be honest. Because geometry nodes are still a very new system. But anyway, I'm gonna enable live unwrap now, and let's just pin all of these over here and pin all of that. And now I'm gonna pin these, and anything that is pinned will not change with the live unwrap. But now I can actually Shift W, align this, and now it just gets aligned, which is basically the same as just scaling it down along one axis. And this now, hold on, let me actually switch over here and show this. There we go. Okay, this actually now, if I undo this, you can see that this is how it looked before. And now if I align this, I have it kind of straight. So along this part over here, oh, I actually have, so you can see along the collar directly, it's actually very even. It's nicely even all the way through, and then it gets a bit more stretched towards the outer sides, but that's hard to avoid. Well, some of it I can fix, and I need to. Like for example, I can pin this and auto align it. Oh. Can I actually align it along the... No. Well, I can use the 2D cursor. Let's see. Cursor to select it. Scale it down. Yeah, I'm gonna undo this. Yeah, I can fix it a bit like that, but not much. Just want to get rid of some of this overlap, which is really not good. Yeah, something like this. Just push this down. Okay, and then I basically need to do the same thing over here with these guys. So let's just unpin this. Okay, to pin these. Pin this. Interesting, these are already straightened. I forgot. So I don't need to do anything here. Haha, I did this in a previous live stream. Perfect. Can it just... No. Got rid of some of these seams. I did. So I need to add them back. Like that. Okay. And then there's also... Where's this? Ah, that's what I did. Now that's actually something I might want to do a bit differently. Let's see. Because I have some overlapping seams over here. And I would like this ring over here. It's overlapping with this one, potentially. So I might just do 2 UV maps, seams 1 and seams 2. Like that. Okay. Then let's just go over here, make a new one, call this seams 2. But before I continue with that, I actually want to try this out. So let's just actually go back to the shading. Like that. So, I'm gonna input this UV map, seams 1, which I can use in like a couple different ways. Well, one thing is it's a vector. It's like a vector with 2 values. So I can put this into a converter. Because it's a vector, I can use a separate XYZ. So there we go. Basically like that. And like this. Okay. And then I can use a... where is it? The map range. Okay. Stepped linear. Can I do that? I'm not as proficient with these as Simon. Need to figure out how exactly. Greater than. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. So because it's I made sure these are pretty straight, I can actually define sort of like a range over here. One of the things I would like to do though is to go into edit mode over here on the right UV map. Actually grab all of these and move them all the way down. There we go. It's supposed to be here in the off. Perfect. And now if I select a range, I can get this sort of ring going over here. It's perfect. Sadly, only now do I notice that I actually should get rid of this seam over here. So I can just Control E, clear seam. And now if I move anything over here, it should actually just update the UV map. Oh, it won't because I have a lot of that stuff pinned. So let's actually select all of this. Selection is... okay, here we go. Select all of this and unpin it. Now if I move any of these points, it should actually... I was expecting everything to kind of just snap to that part. Well, let me actually just enable live unwrap over here. Clear seam. There we go. That's more like it. Oh! I actually need to make sure that these are also again tagged as a seam. Mark seam. There we go. Ah, there's my issue. I need to mark these as a seam. Which point is that? This one. There we go. Now this is what I wanted. I wanted the other side as well. And now it's actually included in this map range. There we go. Ah, sorry. Okay. Now let's try this. So I have this mask essentially over here. Okay. And I want to have it a bit softer. Wait, there's greater than... Wait, there's smooth maximum. Can I use something like that? Yeah, I need to kind of figure out some of these. Oh, wait. Some of these over here. That's not working. The greater than math node is very easy. That's really easy for me to define, like this portion. I might actually need to use, if I want to have a bit of gradient left in there and not make it super sharp, I might actually need to use the map range. So let's just look at this one. There we go. Oh, hold on. I need to change the input. I think that's it. Yes. There we go. And now I'm getting a bit of a gradient in here. There we go. I see some questions. Is it true that you really made every sculpt in the short film Spring? Kinda. I was not the only person modeling, like making assets for that movie, but yeah, I kind of like worked on the majority of the assets. What does Live Unwrap in the 3D view do? Is it different from the UV editor? I think Live Unwrap is the greatest UV unwrapping feature that Blender has, and I have a feeling that a lot of people don't really know about it. If you're really curious about knowing more about, learning more about it, check out the tutorial on YouTube from Daniel Bystedt. He did a really great UV unwrapping tutorial, which is a bit fast, but it's showing a lot on like what are the tools that you can actually use to unwrap really well and efficiently. But essentially what it does is Live Unwrap, if it's enabled, any change you do on your UVs, either from the 3D viewport or the UV editor, there's actually a Live Unwrap toggle for both editors. Whatever changes you do, it's going to unwrap your model again. So you tag new seams, it's immediately gonna unwrap it. Or you remove seams, it's just gonna unwrap it immediately, automatically. But the great thing is you can pin points, and these points are not going to change through the live unwrapping. And that way you can morph and align your UVs really intuitively. I went a bit more in detail on this on previous live streams. But yes, now it's not just a harsh line, I actually have a bit of a gradient. That's exactly what I wanted. Oops. Let's see, how much can I get? I think this is good. Okay, awesome. Hold on. I actually want to try something different. Wasn't there like, oh man, I don't know some of these math nodes as much. It's like a ping pong feature. Like, what is the right one to use if I already have like this very clearly defined cut, but I want to actually like have a smooth gradient in both directions from it? And I wish I would know. Maybe wrap? Maybe I'm just not quite understanding it well enough, because I don't think this is really going to work out as I intended to work out. I need more experience with this. But what I can now do is I could, for example, plug this in directly. I have a mask over here generated from the UV map, and I can actually use it to darken the color over here a bit. That's like a very basic way of doing it, but what I actually want to do is I want to have two sewing patterns. So I'm gonna duplicate this and call this sewing pattern 2. And it's gonna use a different UV map. So let's just actually input, where is it, UV map. And I'm actually gonna use the seams. There we go. And now if I look at this, it's actually following this UV map. Now, what I can instead do, I can define these two different patterns. I can plug this in over here, and instead have a mix node over here. And now it's gonna blend between these two. I just need to adjust the size to be correct. And to be honest, I would actually like to make a duplicate of this UV map and just call it UV map collar and sleeves. There we go. And I want to use that one. Perfect. Now, I'm just gonna select this one, and I'm gonna scale on, wait. I'm just gonna change the size over here. There we go. Until it's kind of correct. There we go. Now I can change this over here. Change the value to be a bit darker. There we go. And it has a different direction. And that's basically how I'm gonna mix this. I'm gonna do the same for the sleeves. And then I just need to add stitches in the middle. That's eventually what I'm gonna do. Okay, so I'm gonna frame this and call this collar, sleeves, mask. Can I just type this in? Yeah, okay, that works. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. And the same thing over here. Just full screening this, plugging this in here, and wait, that is the displacement. Right, I'm not actually using the roughness map anymore. I can just delete it. There we go. And now this should actually switch between these two very reliably. Over here on the sleeve. Perfect. Success. Now what I can do is I could... Yeah, damn it. I would like to eventually add some procedural nature to this, where exactly these seams are. I'm gonna update the where I darken the texture with the seams. I'm gonna eventually not use the vertex colors anymore, but actually use the border where this transition is happening. There we go. Gonna bring back the rest. This is already looking kind of better. Okay. This is the sort of sleeve that I wanted. Now I can adjust the UVs so that it also happens on more pieces. Oh, there's actually a seam missing over here. Mark seam. Huh. Where's Live Unwrap? Yeah, I messed some of this up a bit. P. This is better. It's not as symmetrical anymore, but it works. Okay. Of course, I want this to be different. I'm gonna unpin actually all of this. So if I now select all of these and clear seam. Oh, I don't have Live Unwrap over here. Oh, I do. Yeah, it actually updated all of this. So now I want this to be... I want the UVs for the color, so I can add the same thing there. So I can just mark these as seams. There we go, and that's the thing. Okay. I'm gonna do essentially the same thing. Just, I'm gonna grab this and pin it. These two. And they're already pretty straight, so I can just auto-align them. Like that. Shift W, auto-align. And I would like to check how that exactly looks like. I think that is pretty satisfactory. I can live with that. And then what I need to do is all of this just get scaled down back to 0. I don't need this. I don't need these. Scale them down to 0, pin them, get rid of them. 0. And I want these to basically have the exact same thing going on. As the collar. So I can just put these on top of each other. I just need to make sure that the pinned points are exactly on the same spots, pretty much. Now I can just scale them. Let's actually have all of this selected and just Control A. With that shortcut, I'm setting a consistent texel density, like normalizing it. I think by default it doesn't have a shortcut anymore, so I can just show you in a moment. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm basically doing this operator over here, which is called average island scale. It's like trying to apply the same texel density on all the islands. It's not working perfectly, but usually it does a good enough job that for these purposes, I can just keep using this. Okay, let's see. Interesting is, why doesn't it work over here? Because it's still using the wrong UV map. There we go. This one is rotated the wrong way around. And now you can see they are on the same spot. Like this is sort of the middle axis over here. It's hard to see at this point, but that's kind of where I put it. And now the sleeves should also be extended that far and get that same color shift. So now if I just show this again, yeah, does actually switch the pattern, but in this case it's so subtle it doesn't even make a difference. But it works. So that much for the base color. Later on I would also like to have a bit of a bump here to imply a change in elevation, but it's also just going to be subtle. Right now it's really just, I'm thinking only really about getting the right UVs there, the base color, and the orientation of the texture pattern. Pretty much the same thing should happen down here. I'm at least going to try that. So let's just show this one again. Click the render button over here so it actually shows this part as well. And now I'm gonna need to get rid of all of these UVs, all of these seams over here. Okay, let's clear all of these seams. Let's actually select all of this. No, all of this. I think this is good. Okay, mark seam over here. And then for this entire patch, I have sync selection off, so I can just select this separately. I can unpin these points. Now if I make an update over here, it should actually unwrap it. Oh, same thing over here. Clear seam. Unpin. Just mark seam. There we go. Okay, this is going good. Again, over here, I need to set... I'm gonna set this into local view. Okay. I want to pin these. Rotate this 90 degrees. Minus, I guess. Actually, no, the other way around. Rotate 180 degrees. So this is the inner side, this is the outer side, and this is kind of like the transition point, kind of. Now this is also already pretty straight, so I can just select these over here and just just select this, Shift W, align, and same thing here. Hold on. These Shift W, align, and these pin, Shift W, align, and the rest will follow. Now I just need to again get sort of the same texel density going here, so I'm just gonna try to, with orthographic view, align this sort of. I want to first do it by eye so that it's already kind of the same. And then select everything and Control A. And right now it is way off. I also should check out some of these add-ons. I downloaded Text Tools, which is free, and it is, maybe it's offering some sort of like texel density. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so pick. That's the one. I could select all of these and then apply texel density. Okay, so that's actually working. Perfect. That's way more efficient. Yes, so it has the correct size. Perfect. Now I can show again the mask that is being created here, and I just need to align these UVs correctly. So first I'm gonna just put them on top of each other so that their pinpoints are exactly on the same spot. And I'm gonna select all of them and move them down. There we go. One of the things that's showing right now is they are actually rotated the wrong way. So let's just rotate them around 180 degrees. And the other thing is they don't quite match up over here. But I'll at least put their like correct center point over here. That's correct. Okay. And then I will invert the selection over here and hide this. Okay. Let's actually create a diffuse shader over here and plug this in and just show this. I want to be able to see this. Hold on. Let's just make a principled BSDF. Plug this in as base color. I just don't want to be able to see with shading where that stuff is happening. Okay. And I want to align this properly. And I should also see the exactly where the folds are, so I can align that correctly as well. Also, I'm going over time a bit, so I should stop in a moment. So let's see over here. Yeah, it's just important that these align. So I'm gonna use some proportional editing and move this up along the Y. Okay, that kind of works. And then I need to do the same thing over here. Just these endpoints. Just kind of want to move these down as well. Like, I want to move this way down. And on the other side, move it up. Just so that they meet up. Like that. I think I can live with that. Oh. It actually got misaligned again over here. That's weird. Okay, that should work. And then I can just get rid of this and look at the shader again, see how it looks. Oh boy. It's using the wrong UV map. I think I should make no UV map ambiguous over here. This should just use the main UV map. There we go. And there I have it. Some nice first start of a shader for the shirt. So I have the main patterns over here for the sleeves, and it's actually changing the direction of the texture. And I even have it down here, but here it's a bit more subtle. Also a bit more irregular. I could even make it I could make it more irregular. Like if I show this over here. Yeah, like if I go into edit mode over here again, select this, I would actually like it to be lower, exactly here, where that fold is happening. That makes sense to me. So I could just like move this down, right here. And I could move it up over here. As long as I still let them meet up over here, it's all good. And then I will do a similar thing over here. Where I just like, okay. Over here, I think it makes sense that it's higher. And then over here there's a bit of a bulge again. I can like lower it. There we go. Actually, it's the other way around. Kind of like that. Yep, I like that. So it's still visible, but it's a bit more subtle. Yeah. So it's flowing a bit more with those folds that I modeled in. Perfect. I'm going to quickly go over the questions again. So that dot on the shirt though, yeah, exactly, like there's a bit of a thing here. I mean, eventually what I would do, especially for the rig, is to add a mask modifier, and this is then just gonna get hidden, but I'm just gonna adjust the geometry to be honest. Just move this out a bit. And it's gone. There's a polygon wrong on the arm. I don't know which one. Can you be more specific? But I don't know. Hopefully everything is kind of correct. I don't know where these intersections are coming from right now, to be honest. Oh, and there's still some... Hold on. Oh! There's some floating geometry over here. What? Wow. Yeah, got rid of it. Is it also on the other side? Yeah, it is. Okay. That shouldn't have happened. And that's basically it. So this is already having some of those, starting to get some of those details that I wanted to have in Rain, but I never added them. And also the bump maps and everything just looks cleaner and better than over here. Next up, I'm gonna add seams, and I need to like darken the area over here a bit in the color where it transitions, and also add a bit more to the bump map that it actually looks like there's like a bit of a rise, like a bit of a crease here. And then I'm gonna add also creases with in the color and in the bump where exactly the seams are. And yeah, just a lot of little stitches to just, well, maybe not. I will have to think about it. I think stitches would make sense, but since it's a cotton shirt, that sort of stuff would actually be hidden on the inner side. And that means I just need to get that like extra ebb and flow like in the crease. And that's basically then it. And then there's the pants, the shoes, still lots to do. And the skin, even though I added a bit of procedural nature to it, there's still more to do here. It needs more fine tweaking. I think the shirt just comes together much more easily. But also still lots of stuff missing here, and I would like to paint in some smaller wrinkles. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But that will be next time. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next week.